Good evening and welcome to this virtual candidate forum. My name is Ravine Jimenez and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Benton and Franklin counties. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that does not support or oppose candidates. In presenting these candidate forums, it is our goal to provide opportunities for voters to become better informed about the people who are running for public office. Tonight's forum has been pre-recorded in conjunction with Northwest Public Broadcasting. After tonight, it will also be available for viewing through the League's Facebook page, the Badger Club website, YouTube, and nwpb.org. The races we are featuring in our primary forums are the ones where 3 or more candidates have filed to run. Tonight, we will be hearing from the candidates who are seeking positions on the Kenwick City Council, Position 1, Position 3, and Position 4. These are all nonpartisan positions. At this time, I would like to introduce Matt Lovelace, who will be our moderator. Matt is a scholarly assistant professor of communication at the Murrow College, WSU Pullman, a graduate of Murrow. Matt returned after working as a news reporter, anchor, and sports director in Idaho and Illinois. He earned recognition from the Illinois Broadcasters Association for excellence in sports storytelling and as a sports anchor. Students in his courses learn the value of versatility in the rapidly changing world of broadcast news. And now please welcome Matt. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravine. I am Matt Lovelace, moderating this event for Northwest Public Broadcasting. Here are the rules of engagement for today. Each candidate has been given the opportunity to give a 1-minute opening statement. This will be followed by a question and answer session. We want to give each of our candidates the opportunity to answer a question first. So, for the sake of time in this program, responses will be limited to 1 minute. Time permitting, we will allow for a 30-second closing statement. All 3 candidates will be asked the same questions, and the first question will be answered in order in which their name appears on the ballot. We'll change the order throughout the line of questioning tonight. Now, as moderator, I reserve the right to extend the time for answering or following up on questions. Our first forum of the evening actually includes candidates for 2 different races for seats on the City Council. Running for Position 1 are Don Britton, Jacob Finkbeiner, and Gretel Crawford. Mr. Britton was the only one who could join us today. He will join the 3 Position 3 candidates in our question and answer portion. I'll introduce them in a moment. But first, we want to hear from Mr. Britton. You have 1 minute for an opening statement.
Thank you. My name is Don Britton. I am the mayor of the city of Kennewick. I have served the citizens of Kennewick and my community for the last 12 years, the last 4 as mayor. I am seeking re-election to continue to make Kennewick a great place to live, work, and raise a family. It's important that Kennewick does not reverse course and move backwards. We have had many successes in the 12 years that I've been on council. Our development of Southridge has created over 300 new jobs. We've completed the Bobbles and Parkway. The 395 interchange is now under construction. We've greatly improved our partnerships, such as with the Home Builders Association and the Port of Kennewick. As a matter of fact, we received the Governor's Smart Community Award for partnerships for the completion of the Columbia Gardens Wine Village and the Vistafield Master Plan with the Port of Kennewick. We have streamlined our processes, such as express permitting and one-stop customer service with input from our developers and business community to be a more efficient government. I look forward to serving you 4 more years.
Thank you, Mr. Britton. Now, as I said, Gretel Crawford was one of the candidates for Position 1 who could not attend this forum. Now, when that's the case, the candidate cannot submit answers to questions, but can submit an opening statement to be read in the forum. Ms. Crawford laid out her goals for the city, and here is that statement. Quote, "My main priority on City Council will be to promote open and honest government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Our community government is for local community, and what might work for our people on the west side does not necessarily reflect our values locally. My top goals will be to protect our community's freedoms and liberties, promote the reopening of our small businesses and community programs that this community relies upon for safety, health, and well-being to try to bring our community together to help one another. Kennewick is a great place to live, but in order to continue to thrive, we need more services, job opportunities for young people, and we need diversification of those services. We have several great locations that are primed to be great developments for the benefit of all: Vista Fields, Bridge to Bridge, the Willows and the Wine District, and the revitalization of the downtown area. I am excited to partner with the private industry to do that. Again, that statement from Position 1 candidate Gretel Crawford. And now we'll move on in our round of opening statements with the Position 3 candidates. Brandon Anderson, you're first on the ballot, and you can begin now.
Hi there, everybody. My name is Brandon Anderson. I am running for Kennewick City Council, Ward 3, Position 3. I am a local business owner, a husband, and a father, and my family and I live in downtown Kennewick. I serve on boards for Art Center Task Force, my Tri 2030 Quality of Life Council, and I also serve as the Director of Communications for Leadership Tri-Cities. I attend Badger Club meetings to learn more about our community. And because of the knowledge that I have acquired through all of these groups that I'm a part of, I feel like I am a great candidate for this position. We need further development for our creative district, which is supposed to be in this relative downtown area. We need more development of multi-use spaces and performance centers. And we need to focus on improving the quality of life for all of the citizens that live here. That's all from me. Thank you. I'm Brandon Anderson. Please vote for me.
Mr. Anderson, thank you very much. Jason Lohr, your turn for your 1-minute opening statement.
Hello, welcome to my home, and thank you for welcoming me into yours. My name is Jason Lohr. I'm running for Kennewick City Council, Position 3. I'm an electrician and a member of IBEW Local 112 here in Kennewick, where I volunteer on our Political Action Committee and our Renew Youth Outreach and Community Service Committee. I live here, I work here, and my wife and I are raising our son here. Our community faces real challenges. Kennewick is growing rapidly, and we need housing to accommodate that growth. We need good local jobs that bring people here, and we need successful businesses that drive our local economy. As the world changes around us, we must invest in the infrastructure that will sustain our economic development and meet our community's needs today and tomorrow. These are challenges we can meet, but only if we work together. We need local government that is focused on local issues. We need leaders who can work cooperatively to get the job done. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get to work. I hope you'll support me in this effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Trumbo, our final opening statement. Now is your time.
Thank you very much. I am John Trumbo, and a retired newspaper reporter and a resident of Kennewick Ward 3 for 20 years. I am seeking a third term on the council, where I have served for nearly 8 years. I stand for the U.S. Constitution, First, Second Amendments, and all the rest in the Bill of Rights. And I am working very hard to hold government accountable, which is what I started with 8 years ago. Every candidate says they support things like police, fire, jobs, a livable community, and that doesn't separate any of them. I am different because I want accountability at City Hall from both administrators and from fellow council members, and I keep a close eye on the finances. We need less government, not more. We need to find ways to say yes, not no, to help citizens and businesses build a better community. I will work for that, and I am very much committed to accountability in government. Thank you.
Mr. Trumbo, and all of you, thank you very much for those opening statements. Now, for the 4 of you who are here, we do have 4 questions for you, all of these coming from the League of Women Voters in Benton and Franklin counties. Mr. Britton, you get to answer first here. Your 1-minute response time begins at the start of your answer. That first question is, how would you plan on balancing commercial growth versus housing growth as the city continues to develop?
Well, both commercial and residential growth are very important to our city. Residential growth will bring in property tax, which we get very little of. Commercial growth will provide additional sales tax. And if anybody does not know, the city of Kennewick receives more of their tax revenue from sales tax and property tax. So You have to have commercial growth to attract businesses to move here. That then will cascade into residential growth. So they both work hand in hand. One of the ways that we can attract commercial growth is to maintain low permitting fees, offer amenities to businesses that want to relocate in Kennewick for their families to do, whether that's additional parks and services. People are looking for things to do to move their families to Kennewick. So they both go hand in hand.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Anderson, that same question goes to you, balancing commercial growth versus housing growth.
I think that listening to the community and finding out what the needs are and how to and being able to focus on what is needed. So for example, there's a lot of people looking to buy houses right now. So now is a great time to have houses available. Obviously we need to build those. As far as our traffic and things like that goes, as we develop, we're going to gain more traffic, through in areas like the Columbia Center Boulevard area. We're going to get a lot more traffic. There's going to be more traffic in the downtown area, and that's good. But those are things that the city needs to be aware of and keep track of, as far as keeping up to date with, the roads and things like that, the sidewalks, and ensuring that our city is still walkable and enjoyable and safe to live in. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Anderson, thank you very much. Mr. Lohr, same question to you.
Thank you. Well, one of the central pillars of my candidacy has been our need for more housing. We are in a housing crisis here, and there's just no two ways about that. However, from a city council standpoint, we do have enough land zoned for residential to house everyone we're expecting to move here. Commercial development is very important. As someone else mentioned, Tri-Cities receives most of our funding from sales tax. Retail is very important. We need to work to support and develop commercial development. I'm a big fan of Kennewick's comprehensive plan, as well as specifically the waterfront development and the bridge-to-bridge idea. I think that maybe the best thing we could do to balance them is to do both, with mixed-use housing that involves commercial on the ground floor and nice apartments on the top to create the kind of livable and walkable communities that young people are asking for. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Trumbo, that last same question to you for our last response here. Commercial growth versus housing growth.
Question is an interesting one, and what's left out of it is the need for industrial growth. I've been pushing for more industrial growth in the city of Kennewick since I joined the council in 2014. Keep in mind that commercial growth produces jobs that frequently are not good enough paying to support a family. They are quite often part-time jobs and do not carry benefits with them. That's why when I go to groundbreakings, or open houses for new businesses, I always ask how many full-time jobs are created with this new business. That is the issue. We have not enough livable family wage jobs. And the other thing is that commercial growth or the industrial growth is not happening because we don't have enough land zoned for it. We have too much land that is zoned for residential growth, and there's plenty of that. And most of the residential growth is too expensive.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your answers to that question. Now, question number 2, and Mr. Anderson, your turn to go first here. Recent events in policing have prompted attention to a goal of more transparency in our police departments throughout the country. What are your views regarding achieving this goal, and do you believe the new law regarding body cameras will help this, and why or why not?
I do believe that we should have body cameras. I do believe we should have body cameras on police officers, and that's to protect the police officers as well as to protect people being accosted, for instance. If someone is being arrested and they are acting super, violent, we want to be able to see that, because that's going to make it much easier to convict that person. And having that accountability prevents excessive violence or excessive force that is not needed but wouldn't be caught otherwise. So I am in favor of something like that, although I think that the police have done an excellent job, and I don't think that we're necessarily in a situation where I hope that we wouldn't have any abuse happening, so that the cameras wouldn't be catching anything like that. And that's my experience with the Kennewick Police. And so I'd just like to say I am a supporter of the Kennewick Police, and I'd love to find a way to finance the cameras for our local police. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Anderson. And Mr. Lohr, same question about police transparency. Do you believe the law regarding body cameras will help with this?
Yes, thank you. I've talked to our local police about this. We're lucky in Kennewick to have a transparent, open, and available police department. I think they do a very professional job. I think in general, I think the data is still out on exactly what effect body cameras have on policing and on community satisfaction. Though I think that it's getting to be a settled issue where most communities are moving to this, and I think it's probably a little bit of a waste of time to argue. So I would rather move on to trying to solve the problems that are causing this to begin with. You know, police are there to control problems, not to solve problems. It is on our community to solve the problems that are overtaxing our police. And often I think we're just simply asking them to do too many jobs. I believe local partnerships with mental health care workers and social workers that have shown to be effective so far are the right way to go. Thank you.
And Mr. Trumbo, do you think this body camera law is helping with police transparency?
I think we're in a time in a technology era where police cameras, body cameras, are just part of the landscape. We have to expect it. We have to accept it. It's what happens. It's no different than the other technologies that have come into law enforcement. Drones, police radios, all of this stuff is the latest stuff, which we need for the purpose of being able to have an effective police force to make our community safe. I do not resist this effort. I called for it some time ago when I was talking to the police chief. I'm talking a couple of years ago, and there was some resistance at that time. I don't think it's the time for resistance. It's time just to accept it and go ahead with good policing practice.
Thanks, Mr. Trumbo. And Mr. Britton, our position 1 candidate who's here today, do you think this new law regarding body cameras is helping with police transparency in Kennewick?
I think body cams can help some departments that maybe are having some issues with transparency. I believe in the city of Kennewick, we have a fantastic police department ran by who I think the best chief in the state of Washington. The body cams can prevent abuse of power in certain departments, but this bill is just another example of unfunded mandates that the state legislature has put on the local municipalities, because we now have to go pay for these body cams to taxpayers. I take the lead of our police chief very seriously, and he has not been a supporter of body cams, and it has nothing to do with trying to hide anything. But he is an expert in his position. He runs an efficient, very efficient police department. So there might be some situations where the body cams could aid in transparency, but I did not think it was necessary for the city of Kennewick, but we will comply.
All right, thank you to the 4 of you for your thoughts on that question. As we move on to question number 3, and talking about zoning, what thought processes will you use to determine decisions regarding zoning issues that may come before you in this position? And what research might you do to help you with these decisions? Mr. Lohr, your turn.
Thank you. As I mentioned before, I'm a proponent of Kennewick's comprehensive plan. I believe in our current growth strategy as stated being the right way to go. Moving forward for zoning, I agree with my opponent that we need more industrial zoning. That's not so much an opinion, that appears to be a fact. We need to expand our tax base into more than just property taxes and sales taxes. So I do believe one of my top priorities would be trying to lure more industry to our area. But in general, my research process and thought process is the same as with all decision making. It's my belief that all stakeholders deserve a spot at the table. I think in every issue, we should be talking with all of the community we can find, all of the groups that we can get a hold of, to be more efficient, getting out to the public and holding more informational sessions so that everybody has real input in this process as Kennewick changes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lohr. Mr. Trumbo, you touched on this a little bit. What research would you include in your thought process when it comes to zoning in the city?
I think it's important to understand that we have these tools, zoning, the comprehensive plan, and although some people think that they are absolute, we need to be looking at these tools as a guide so that we can have more flexibility in what we as council do. It's too often we're not willing to negotiate and consider special circumstances relating to the properties. I'm talking about property ownership rights. The rule books frequently are very much a problem for the folks who want to build on their property or to develop something. And to solve this dilemma, we need to look more carefully at how we develop or construct our comprehensive plan and how we look at zoning issues. I could point to a couple, but I'm out of time. That's all I can say now.
Thanks, Mr. Trumbo. Appreciate it. And Mr. Britton, our position 1 candidate, asked you the same question about zoning issues and what kind of research you would look into to help those decisions.
Well, without question, the comprehensive plan is a document that we use as the city of Kennewick for future planning going out 20 years. Not controlled planning, planned planning. We have to maintain credibility as a city. If we have a land use supported by zoning for a certain type of business, then that business comes in and spends millions of dollars to locate. And then we do a temporary use zone and put, for example, a tow yard next to it that would devalue that business. That destroys our credibility. So it's very important to follow a comprehensive plan. 12 years ago, when I came on council, I actually pushed for industrial use land. We have been spending the last 10 years trying to expand our UGA south of I-82 to industrial use land. We've had some fights with FutureWise on that. We recently annexed it, and it is moving forward. So very important. The comprehensive plan is there for a reason.
And Mr. Anderson, how would you handle zoning issues that may come before you?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. I think zoning is important to be in alignment with the comprehensive plan, as many have mentioned before. But I also think that there needs to be additional flexibility in, for example, with entrepreneurs and people starting to or trying to start up a business. You know, paying for a commercial space can be a huge, can cost a lot of money in a small, you know, for a very small business. So in all of the new construction, obviously, that specific, you know, towards the Southridge area especially, and a lot of the larger buildings that are coming in, they need to be in the appropriate areas, obviously, right? And that's essentially what zoning is. So I guess I'll be done.
All right, thank you
Thanks
very
for the
much.
time.
Our final question for our candidates here, and Mr. Trumbo, you'll start this one. As Kennewick continues to become more diverse in its population, should the city make a concerted effort to reflect that diversity in its hiring and training, and that includes the police and fire departments, and why or why not?
Question sounds like a quota question, and I'm not sure that I would favor any move in that direction. I believe that qualifications for employment should be blind to color, ethnicity, any racial or religious profile. It's really about getting the best person for the job in the city of Kennewick. Our police chief has led a department that has made remarkably good hires in the last several years, I'll say 4. And they don't take just anybody who comes in or who can do the job. He is very specific about getting the best they can find. That's not to be misunderstood. The best means the best of all candidates, all applicants. Trying to match our employment roster with whatever diversity we have in the community is not the smartest way to go.
Thank you, Mr. Trumbo. Mr. Britton, the question moves to you now.
Yeah, thank you. I also fall on qualifications. The city of Kennewick actually does have a very diverse workforce. Our city manager has put together a diverse executive team. As has been previously mentioned, our chief of police constantly has openings because he waits for the right person. It doesn't matter race, gender, culture. It's the qualifications that are going to bring the best employee to the city of Kennewick. And I think really that's what we all want. It's very important that we don't have select quotas in our hiring process. As I mentioned, we have a very diverse employment right now, but that's a tremendous effort by our city manager to put that in place.
All right, thank you, Mr. Britton. And Mr. Anderson, your turn for that question.
Yeah, thank you. I think that essentially in order to improve the diversity of within an organization, making it attractive and an acceptable space and being representative of our diverse community is extremely important. Even as far as, for example, diversity on our website and things like that. And we've done a good job in some instances of that. But overall in the hiring process, ensuring that people feel that they are comfortable no matter what their, no matter how they identify is very important. And I think that hiring based on qualifications is of course the preferred way to hire someone, but also keeping in mind that we have a diverse community here, and allowing that our city staff and the people that we hire to reflect that is important. Thank you.
And Mr. Lohr, final answer for that question.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, could you talk about how diverse the city of Kennewick is, reflecting that diversity in hiring and training, including in police and fire departments?
Thank you. Kennewick has grown more and more diverse. You know, many people know we started out as a sundown town, and I'm proud of the progress Kennewick has made. I believe in hiring the best candidate for the job, but I believe that if we truly are hiring the best candidates for the job, what we will see is a great diversity in hiring, because the best people are the ones who truly represent our whole community. So I've not heard specifically about quota requirements, and I cannot speak to any specific policy on the table, but I believe that diversity is not just, you know, the right thing, but the best possible path forward for everyone in Kennewick, because we are at our best when we're all working together. Thank you.
Well, we do have a very small window here for closing statements. I know this went quickly. We'll put a 30-second limit on these. And we're back to how we started in our rotation, meaning Mr. Britton, position 1 candidate, you're up first.
Thank you. I do not have any personal agenda serving on council. I consider it a service to my community. I don't answer any special interest groups. I don't answer any political action committees. I represent all citizens in Kennewick, regardless of race, age, religion, political affiliation. It's important to recognize 5 of our 7 members on council have less than 4 years of experience. So it's more important than ever right now that my 12 years of experience continue on the city council, and this last year with the COVID pandemic reflected that need. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Britton. And Mr. Anderson, your 30-second closing.
Can you hear me all right?
We can.
Yes. Okay, there we go. I just want to say thank you for enabling me to have this time to talk a little bit and get some of my nerves out to get used to doing this. I really appreciate the opportunity, and please vote for me. I would really appreciate it. And I'm in love with Kennewick, and I'm in love with the Tri-Cities, and I just want this place to have a higher quality of living, and I think I'm the best person to do that. So thank you.
And Mr. Lohr, your closing statement, sir.
Our city needs more housing that is affordable at all income levels, more industry, good paying jobs, prospering local businesses, and the kind of community that our children want to live and raise families in. I will work to spur new housing construction that is affordable at all income levels. I will get the job done. We'll build towards a future with more reliable, sustainable, lower cost utilities and with more business investment in our community. The central message of my campaign has been building a better Kennewick together, and I'm excited to build it with you. Thank you.
And finally, Mr. Trumbo, your closing statement, sir.
Thank you. I just want to point out that 8 years ago, when I was a candidate for the city council, brand new out the box, I received an endorsement from the Tri-City here. And in that endorsement, they made a statement that said that I would be, I have everything it takes to be knowledgeable and know what a good council member would be. And I still do. And that endorsement holds true today. Appreciate your vote. Thank you.
All right, well, position 1 candidate, incumbent Don Britton, and position 3, Brandon Anderson, Jason Lohr, and John Trumbo, candidates for Kennewick City Council. Thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next up, position 4 on the Kennewick City Council. On that ballot, incumbent Bill McKay, Ken Short, Brian Verhey, and Ubi Creek. Thank you all for being here today. And we start with your opening statement, starting with the name first on the ballot, which is Mr. Short. You have 1 minute for your opening.
Great. Well, my name is Ken Short. I'm running for Kennewick City Council. I first want to thank the League of Women Voters and everyone involved in coordinating this. I've tuned into past forums and I'm excited to be participating in one myself. Kennewick has always been my home. It's where I was raised, where my family's small business has operated for over 30 years. And now my wife and I live in Kennewick with our 2-year-old son, Owen, and his partner in crime, 3-year-old dog, Winston. I'm running because young families like mine have a real stake in what the city looks like in 2050. I want to ensure our first responders have the tools and resources they need to keep us safe, especially as our population continues to climb. I want to attract new industries, new businesses, and employees and have them stay, where they can invest their talents, ingenuity, and creativity right here in our city. I want to make the city council work for the citizens of Kennewick again. My first priority and only priority will be serving the Kennewick community. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get to work on making sure the next 30 years are even stronger than the last. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Short. Mr. Verhey, your 1 minute opening statement.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Brian Verhey, and I'm running for position 4, of course. Kennewick is growing, and we're at a point where we can either make sure that we invest in the infrastructure as well as the needs of the city to direct smart, healthy growth, or we can let growth happen to us and it won't necessarily be clean. I want the position so I can take my experience as a small business owner running a real estate team here in Kennewick out to the city council to make sure that we're taking a critical look at zoning and infrastructure to make sure that we have the setup we need to grow smart, grow healthy, grow our tax base, and to ultimately take care of people. I want to make sure that we are giving law enforcement what they need so they can divert people from jail instead of putting people into jail. I want to give them additional tools and additional avenues to take care of the people of Kennewick. And I'm here to represent all the people of Kennewick, no matter how you identify. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on. And thank you very much.
And Mr. McKay, your opening statement, sir.
Thank you. So I'm completing my first term of council, and I'd just like to tell a little bit about myself. I'm a business owner, developer, been through the city permitting process many times. I was a commercial lender, which allowed me to work with many different kinds of businesses and the cities that those businesses were building in, which has helped me to understand better the needs of businesses and citizens. I currently serve on the Washington Self-Storage Association board. I've served on many different boards and commissions prior to city council. When farming, my wife and I were elected national chair couple of the Young Cooperators. I was appointed by the Idaho governor to the Dairy Products Commission, Idaho Beef Council, Meat Export Federation, and I've been on Tri-City Prep High School Board and Scoutmaster a couple times, along with other volunteer things that I've done. Just a little bit about me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Creek, your turn for your 1 minute opening statement.
Hola, my name is Ubi Creek, and I have been a resident of Kennewick for 40 years. And during those 40 years, we raised our 2 daughters here, one of whom is a nurse, and the other, which is our first family attorney, of which I am so proud of. I began my volunteerism in their classrooms as they were young girls in the local schools. And it has been all that began my service, and it's been all those years that have prepared me for such a time as this. I'm ready to serve at this level of the Kennewick City Council because I want to, just like Mr. Short, roll up my sleeves and look for things that we can help, things that will help our community move forward. Likewise, my position as a bilingual and biliterate woman will add to a much needed and new perspective on the board. Truly, there's been a lot of growth in Kennewick, and I'm ready to get engaged and to engage our citizens because Kennewick was the city that helped our family succeed. So I want to see the families of Kennewick succeed in the future. I appreciate your support as I have chosen Kennewick to live, serve, and work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Creek. Now, the first question for all of you from the League of Women Voters of Benton and Franklin counties. Let's talk money. And in what we hope to call a post-pandemic world, what do you believe should be the highest priorities in the city budget over the next 2 years? Mr. Short, your answer first.
Yeah, thank you. That's a fantastic question. And I kind of alluded to this in my opening statement. I think off the bat, we have to continue to prioritize public safety. I know that's one of the priorities called out in the city's budget, and I'd like to continue to make those investments. But not just look at it from what are we investing in today, but from the standpoint of how do we position our police, fire, EMS, et cetera, to be successful for the challenges that come along with a growing population tomorrow. I think one of the biggest challenges that can impact the city while it's growing is to fall behind in those areas. And then you're stuck there playing catch up. So when I talk about investing in our police, it means attracting and recruiting quality officers, quality firefighters, et cetera, and giving them the tools and resources to, again, keep us safe as we continue to grow and thrive.
Thanks, Mr. Short. And Mr. Verhey, your response to your budget priorities over the next 2 years.
So really, we need to take a critical look at our infrastructure to make sure that we are growing in a way that's healthy. We are investing in ways that make it more affordable for builders to build, as well as to build other parts of our communities with affordable housing, as well as housing that is walkable. So those communities where you're able to walk to the grocery store and you're not reliant on a car. Additionally, we need to invest in mental health and make sure that we bring mental health to our community. There are some great starts out there to bring more mental health to Kennewick. However, it's a good first step, and we need to make sure that as we are looking at how to fund those, we're not taking and moving one problem to another problem. We need to make sure we support transit, and in doing so, that people can walk to where they need to go, get a bus, or somehow be able to get to work so they can live fulfilling lives no matter where they're at with their ability to purchase a vehicle.
And Mr. McKay, the question of budget priorities moves on to you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, the budget priorities are pretty much the same as they've been for me ever since I was on, and that is the safety first with police and fire, and then infrastructure, of course. Those three things, however you want to count them, are the most important as far as I'm concerned, and should be prioritized in the budget. As Mr. Short made the comment, as we've been doing in the past, we're working hard to recruit police and fire and bring good ones in. When the Seattle issue was going on, we were able to hire and fill our quota with police by those leaving, and able to bring in very good new officers. And that will continue to be my priority. Thank you.
And Ms. Creek, your budget priorities.
As a social worker in the community, I see the needs of families in regards to affordable housing, as Brian shared. Many of families are displaced because of that. And so I would somehow try to encourage the city of Kennewick to look into areas where that can happen for these families, for stability for the students in particular, as they don't have to be shuffled from school to school. Likewise, I am all on board with supporting our police department. Chief Holmberg has done a great job, but he's on his way out. So we got to make sure that we get somebody who's in tune with our community and what it is that our community needs. And likewise, again, as I work in the community with families, I see a lot of mental health and wellness needs in the community. So we need to support Michelle Gerber and what's going down in our community in regards to maybe taking KGH and making it a place where we can house folks that need to get out of that situation so that they can have a better life to then serve in their communities and live a peaceful life.
Thank you all for those responses. Our second question now begins with Mr. Verhey. Now, you're next in our rotation here. How successful do you believe the needle exchange program has been in Kennewick? And please describe evidence to support your position.
Well, it's ironic you bring that up. I actually serve on the Blue Mountain Heart to Heart board, and they are the nonprofit that has brought that to us. I know this has been a point of some controversy. However, the way the needle exchange program works is they need to bring their used needles to the exchange site in order to get new needles. What this does for the community is they are not using old needles, they're not sharing old needles to pass on disease, and they're not leaving those needles on the ground for people to find, particularly children. I don't have all the numbers with us, but we have actually seen a large amount of needles being exchanged, which means a large amount of needles that have been brought in and traded out, and that means they're not left behind. Additionally, we have had the opportunity to get a lot of people into treatment and offer them treatment as part of our program. So I think it's been a great success, and I would like to see it continued along with some of the other services that nonprofit can offer, such as affordable housing.
And Mr. McKay, same question to you about the effectiveness of the needle exchange program.
Thank you. My experience has not been the same as Mr. Verhey. Based on speaking with the police and fire officers, they are finding those needles and things in places. The problem is, as it was originally started down in Kennewick, off of 395 there, that brought a lot of homeless people to that area. And those businesses there are suffering immensely with the waste and urine and things that they're having to clean up. Because of that, where it is now, it might be a little bit better, but I'm hoping with the drug treatment center that we can start cleaning some of that up, and hopefully that we will be able to get that in here very soon. Thank you.
And Ms. Creek, same question.
I am not I'm not as versed as Brian on the numbers, but I was at the city council meetings when that whole thing was coming down, and a lot of concern in our community because of where it was located first, as Mr. McKay shared. A lot of businesses there were affected negatively by it, and there really wasn't a good plan initially. I'd like to think and hope that there's a better plan now in place, and the place is a different place, thus giving those businesses that are in Vista Way a little bit of a reprieve for all that they had to deal with at that time. So we really must get control of what affects and causes, folks to go in down that hole. And so I'd like to work together to make more resources available to these families and these folks so that they can be more successful in getting out of that.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Short, your response on the effectiveness of the needle exchange program.
Yeah, thank you. Certainly not as well versed in this area as some of the other candidates here. I know when I lived in Seattle a bit during grad school, I had a chance to see perhaps some of the negative impacts of the needle exchange there, and just how it can be an attractant for some unfortunate outcomes for our businesses. But biggest thing for me, I guess, when I think about this is perhaps needle exchange detracts from root causes, especially as we look at homelessness. Latest information, at least that I've seen, shows that about 3/4 of homelessness is due to either drug use or mental illness. And I don't know that needle exchanges get at the root causes of what's causing the drug use. I'd rather see them get into treatment programs and perhaps, and I'd be open to seeing data that suggests that needle exchanges lead directly to those outcomes. But as far as what I've seen today, I've not come across that data.
Question number 3 now. How important is it to you all to preserve open spaces within the Kennewick city boundaries as it affects the quality of life and future tourism dollars? Mr. McKay, I'll send it to you for the first response.
Thank you. The park system that we have right now which I am assuming you're referring to as the open spaces. Right now, they have it so that there are small open spaces all over, of which most of them do not get used very much. So I'm a little more in favor of the larger parks and open spaces in more areas of the city, and the smaller ones don't get used because they don't have the apparatuses and the toys and things in them like the larger ones do, and so the larger ones get used more. And I think that's the way we should be directing that, is more larger open spaces rather than smaller little ones. Thank you.
Ms. Creek, the importance to you of preserving those open spaces in Kennewick?
I think it's important to preserve some of those open spaces. I live near a small park, and as Mr. McKay has said, sometimes it's because there are not apparatuses there. When I have my grandchildren come visit me from Seattle and we walk a few blocks to go to the park, they're pretty disappointed with what's there. That park is also surrounded by a lot of apartments, and I think it's important for those kiddos to have a place to go that's close by, that they can walk to and enjoy being outdoors. As a social worker working in a school system, kids are too much in front of the screen, so we need to get them out. And if they cannot get to a big park, then they're stuck either in an apartment complex or out front where it may not be safe. So I think it would behoove Kennewick to maybe look into partnering with other organizations to put apparatuses in those places to make them accessible to the kids that are close by.
And Mr. Short, same question to you, sir.
Yeah, so I'm definitely in favor of open spaces. One of the things I'd like to do is actually invest more in our parks, give them the resources to provide better options for our families, for the folks who live here, especially when we look at this last year with COVID. I don't know about you all, but my wife and I and kids spent as much time as we could outdoors. And when we look at the type of amenities that the city can provide to attract young families, young professionals that are then going to hopefully be employed at and maybe create the jobs of tomorrow, those are the type of amenities that they're looking for and options for what's going to attract people to Kennewick to not just live here and work here, but hopefully stay here long term. So I would very much like to invest more in our park department and give them the resources to provide a little better options for, again, our families and our community. And that's what's going to help bring more and more folks here to invest their time, energy, and ingenuity into our community.
And Mr. Verhey, you'll get the last crack at this. Your answer to preservation of open spaces in Kennewick.
Open spaces are really important, and being able to have those green spaces where you can take a break. As I said before, we can direct for healthy growth or let growth happen to us. This is a great opportunity to direct for healthy growth. Where I would tackle this is I would take a look at our zoning and other housing ordinances. Maybe we can go ahead and allow people nearby to have an accessory dwelling unit on their property, which is another rental on their own property that they already own, or have more multifamily zoning available. And then take these open spaces that are nearby and provide more to them so they can be attractive. Maybe we can provide infrastructure there that will let these people from these apartments and whatnot walk to these open spaces, enjoy some great features, and maybe even some local businesses can be invited to set up there in a reasonable way that preserves the open space but also provides more amenity, thus making our communities more walkable and more enjoyable to the residents of Kennewick.
Thank you, Mr. Verhey. And our fourth and final question from the League of Women Voters: reconveyance of the shoreline in the Columbia Park area may continue to be a consideration. Now, in this instance, the city of Kennewick would take possession of that area from the Army Corps of Engineers. Now, in your opinion, what would be the pros and cons of Kennewick doing so? Ms. Creek, you're up first.
I was also at the city council meetings when some of those things were being discussed. And it makes me sad that Pasco and Richland had very beautiful parks for their citizens to go to, and we have, though it's right next to the water, it is not as inviting and as beautiful. It's not being used to its capacity. I understand that there are many legal things that have to be addressed for that park to be quote unquote handed over to Kennewick. And is Kennewick ready to take that park on and make it a place that will attract families and many tourism dollars? Lots has happened down there already, but there's a lot of work still to be done. And I think Kennewick can do it, but we got to get together and agree. So there's the kicker. Thank you.
And Mr. Short, same question to you, sir.
Yeah, so I know the city recently signed a MOU with the Untitled Tribes, and hopefully things are moving in the right direction. I know Doc Hastings has done some tremendous work on this. I would love to see the Columbia Park come under local control. It makes sense to me that the folks who swim, fish, bike, and run there would have more say as to the type of developments and opportunities that we'd like to put at the Columbia Park. It would give the city a chance to, one, make it a little more valuable space for our current residents. Again, it would be another phenomenal option to look at making Kennewick that destination piece that potential future employees and certainly tourists who are coming through the area can utilize. And so from my standpoint, I see a whole lot of pros there, and don't see beyond maybe just the added constraints might add to the budget. But I think in the long run, that local control piece would be a phenomenal asset to Kennewick and really help to make our city, again, that destination that folks would either like to live and stay or visit and, of course, shop at our great businesses.
And Mr. Verhey, to you, the pros and cons of the reconveyance of Columbia Park.
Yeah, so on the con side, the really only negative that I foresee is it does add an additional budget line for us to be cognizant of. However, as is a constant message for me tonight, we are growing whether we'd like to or not. Our population is increasing at quite the rate, and this is a great opportunity to provide healthy growth and to plan for healthy growth. As we are able to get that piece of property to develop it, we are able to have more entertainment, more great outdoor space, and more importantly, all those events can then become revenue sources for the city and for the residents of Kennewick. So like Mr. Short said, the ability to have the people who utilize it have more say in it is great, but also to turn that into an asset for the city and ultimately for the people of Kennewick. There's very few downsides, and I would view it as an investment in a great opportunity.
And Mr. McKay, the final word on this topic is yours.
Thank you. Well, since I've been on the council, that's one thing that I've been trying to work on. It is going to be a slow process to get this done. But I think it is very important. It would change the whole complexity of the city with having that land given back to the city. One of the things I would really love to see is a water park developed at the end of Edison Street where it goes down there, and do that with private money. If we had the land back, we could let private enterprises put in and say what they wanted to do for a water park and things like that, and then let them have it for $1 a month or $1 a year, whatever, and build the facility out of their own pocket, and would make a great facility down there on the water. Thank you.
Well, we do have time here for 30-second closing statements, and we're back to how we started in our rotation tonight, meaning Mr. Short, you're up first.
Yeah, well, thank you so much again for the opportunity to present a few of my ideas here today. I've knocked on over 3,000 doors so far and plan to knock on thousands more. Every house is a unique story and a unique challenge, and that's why I'm running. I'm running for the young family struggling to afford their first home, for the young professional trying to decide where to grow and start their career. I'm running for the entrepreneur fighting every day to make that dream a reality, and for the grandparents worried about keeping the city safe for their grandchildren. I'm running for you. So if you're ready to work in making Kennewick an even better place to live, join my campaign at kenshort.org and cast your ballot for me this primary election. Thank you.
And Mr. Verhey, you have 30 seconds for your closing.
Well, thank you for having me tonight. I want to make sure that we are taking a critical look at how we can grow, and we are adjusting our zoning laws to allow for people to use their properties to the best of their ability. Realistically, I want to help all the families of Kennewick afford better living and grow up in a better area. And I would ask for your support at voteverhey.com, and please vote for me at the primary. Thank you.
And Bill McKay, your 30-second closing statement.
Thank you. Yes, appreciate the opportunity that the League of Women Voters has given us here. And as I've said, I've been here for 4 years, and we've gotten a few things done, but we've got a lot more to do. And I would appreciate your support and vote in this election. The budget is the most important, but again, I go back to the most important things we have, and that's the safety and the infrastructure that needs to be emphasized. Thank you.
Mr. McKay, thank you. And Ms. Creek, your closing statement.
Thank you also to the League of Women Voters for putting this on. And as Kennewick grows, I would like the opportunity to join the staff, the city staff and the board in addressing and resolving the issues that go hand in hand with this growing community. We must address the issues such as affordable housing, increased traffic, increased crime, and the growing diverse population. We also must keep our police department strong and funded so that our city is safe and people want to come here. My desire to serve Kennewick, not just to be on a board, but to roll up my sleeves and get to work for us, because this is where I live. I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for joining us here tonight. That does it for this race. And thank you to all 8 of the candidates who took the time and connected with us virtually tonight for 3 contested primary races on the Kennewick City Council. All candidates have also submitted answers to questions at vote411.org. That will be made available ahead of the general election. And here's your reminder to vote. Some key dates in that timeline. The deadline for mail-in voting is July 26th. Also the last day for online registration. You can register in person up to Election Day. That is August 3rd. Now stay tuned, because tomorrow we'll be continuing our look at Kennewick and a pair of contested school board races. We'll also speak with candidates for one of the Benton City Council seats. Now, if you missed any of our previous forums, including any of this one, find our recordings on Northwest Public Broadcasting's YouTube channel. From all of us here at Northwest Public Broadcasting, thank you to the League of Women Voters, and thank you for watching. Have a good night.